I think in Hollywood today, there is this tremendous anxiety that the audience won't get it.
So I don't use this word ever, but I'm going to go ahead and use it to use the sense. A lot of YouTubers use the word woke to describe a lot of movies, and I understand what they're talking about.
We are programmed because we assume that symmetry equals health,
Right.
to look at people who are completely symmetrical,
Right.
and say that that is more attractive than people who are asymmetrical. You are really describing a screwed up sequel episode. Now, I'd like to know how they arrived at pig fish face as the standard, right? That I don't know the evolution of that.
There had to be one guy, pig fish face, that took over and just forced it, right?
Yes, and yeah, that's certainly one theory. I mean, I think my theory with my 10-year-old friends was like there was some nuclear war.
That makes sense.
Those mutations, but going
nuclear
back
war is a big
to
thing
the
in
research that we have about, like, basically pretty is the most powerful prejudice.
Right.
In the world of music, as I understand it, it is very common to have people audition behind a curtain, behind a screen.
That's how they cast the actors. That's how they cast the actors for this episode.
That's a great example. That's a great example. But so in other words, you can see the extrapolation there, that if it is the case that a person's physical beauty gives them an advantage over the rest of me, then if you really want to have an equal society, you're going to have to deal with that. And you can't put a baffle screen in front of everybody all the time. I guess that could be another episode, where everybody has to wear a baffle screen.
Yeah,
nobody can see what anybody looks like. But this was the ultimate with physical. And I guess genetics, I mean, obviously the pig fish face thing, it's not everybody gets surgery at age 2, right? I think one of the reasons Rod Serling's Twilight Zone, because you think about this show, I think was on for 3 years.
It's 5 seasons.
Was it 5 seasons? Yeah, okay. I'm mixing up with Star Trek, but like,
that's 3. Yeah,
it was not the biggest hit, but it is. How many 1961 shows do Generation Z instantly meant? Because I went on Reddit, which is my Bible of what young people are, and my students, and I've mentioned
That's how you reached out to me. I was on Reddit. Just by saying,
right? Yeah, I mean, if you're not on Reddit, you don't exist, right?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Talking to my students and then Reddit, like somebody commented a year ago apparently on this episode, and I saw a lot of posts by, I assume, younger people, because Reddit, the people who comment in Reddit,
you got to be mostly younger,
unless you're on like Reddit. Retirement home or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Andy Griffith. But the people were commenting like, I don't know, I saw the reveal coming, I wasn't surprised. And I'm not criticizing younger people, but I do think, again, going back to the very beginning of our discussion, this generation has seen a lot of devices, conceits, M. Night Shyamalan, you mentioned, like this poor guy, and I mean poor as in like fabulously wealthy guy, comes out with a movie every couple of years, and he's always slammed.
Yeah.
Because he's never been able to have a reveal like Sixth Sense. Basically, he's trapped in a Sixth Sense time loop.
Right. See, I
do think he's made some decent films over that time, but I don't think it's ever been the, oh my God, again, the one sentence thing. He was dead all along. Boom.
Yes.
Right.
There's a great Unbreakable, I think, has a good twist ending, but it's not the same kind of twist ending as Sixth Sense, where, like you say, Sixth Sense, you're hit over the head with it. And Unbreakable, it's more just like, what the fuck? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's how that twist, and it's a fun twist ending. You seen Unbreakable? I don't want to spoil it if you haven't.
I did, but the interesting thing is I vaguely remember a lot of. I've stopped watching his movies, so I don't know what's the last one. I saw. What is the one where the tourists are trapped on a beach?
Oh, Old.
Old, yeah.
Just called Old.
Yeah. Where the reveal there was actually was somewhat clever, but there was just a ham-handedness about it. I
Yes.
think that's my problem. I felt Sixth Sense was subtle and nuanced, and I
Yeah.
think he's lost the mojo for doing subtle
Oh yeah.
and nuanced. But this is the problem I think a lot of younger viewers have,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
To
that
get back
they've
to
been
that.
hit over the head so hard. Um, I think in Hollywood today there is this tremendous anxiety that the audience won't get it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So they feel they have to tell us with gigantic banners, and then the characters have to make a speech explaining to us what we should believe.
I hate that so much. That's
Because
the thing I hate the most.
I don't think that's political. I just think that they have lost all faith
Yes.
in any discernment or intelligence in the audience. Which
Right.
if I were a member of the audience who were 17, I would be insulted by that.
Yeah.
I think my students are insulted by that.
Yeah, a lot of YouTubers. So I don't use this word ever, but I'm going to go ahead and use it to use the sense. A lot of YouTubers use the word woke to describe a lot of movies, and I understand what they're talking about. But the reason I don't use it is it's just like, you mean the movie's just stupid? Like a lot of movies are just stupid. What the politics of the movie are don't really matter. By the way, I understand that there are lots of movies that have, in fact, most movies have like a politics that are forced in. I get all that stuff, but I actually think that like a lot of the time, what people's problem is just that the thing is stupid, and they go, "I don't like this thing," and then it also happens to be political because Hollywood is political. I don't know. I'm not sure. What do you think about that?
Well, okay, so I guess let's talk about this a little. I I have no problem saying that I think the greatest propaganda film ever made was a Nazi film, Lenny
Right.
Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will.
Right.
And one of the most beautiful battle sequences I ever seen was by a communist propaganda film, Alexander Nevsky, by
Oh yeah.
Sergei Eisenstein. And so I can make a
Eisenstein's great.
list of reprehensible ideologies that still created great art.
Oh
And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't necessarily separate the two as being like one cancels out the other.
I feel similar. Yeah.
So what I object to is stupidity.
Right.
I just again, if I did my own YouTube show, it'd be Old Man Shaking Cane at Culture, or something like that. I
That's a
don't
good
know.
name.
I don't know what my viewership would be,
Oh
but
no.
let's use something very obvious, that some 50,000 YouTubers have already pointed out. I did not go see the live action Snow White movie. I'm
Yeah.
not the demographic. There's no demographic for that
Yeah.
movie. I
Exactly.
don't know who the demographic
There's
is.
an imagined
Yeah,
demographic that
yeah.
never came about.
I mean, because I was thinking, like, when I was watching scenes from the movie, aside from the YouTube criticisms, I was watching, like, would a 5-year-old actually want to sit through this? The dance sequences were that I saw were like, because they had to use CGI, they couldn't have the beautiful dance sequences of the live action days.
Right.
Remember, this is supposed to be a live action movie,
Yeah.
but they use CGI, which restrains live action, so they
Right.
can't be dancing across a field and
Exactly. No, it's
to a castle. They have to like dance in place like this. So the music, dance music, which is important for a musical, is like thrown out the window. But
right.
then there's a great YouTuber. She does children's literature criticism, and she said, you can't have a hereditary monarchy and communism in the same country. Pick one, right? And I thought that was just a great line, and I appreciate her too. She's good like you are, but like I just feel a lot of movies today and TV are dumb.
Yeah. They're
And by the
well.
way, if I were like on ideologically, if I believed in the ideology of the movie, I would be doubly angry that
Yes.
somebody made a dumb movie
Yes.
espousing my ideology. If it was really a totalitarian state, they would have killed off everybody that didn't look like that, right?
There. There is.
They wouldn't be spending money for 11 surgeries for Donna Douglas.
Well, somebody, I think it's the doctor, says, if we were really evil, why would we go to all this trouble to help you, all these resources? In my opinion, though, the entire thing is a waste of resources. They could just let them live and they would save so much money. But I get what you're saying, that you're saying that maybe this is an attempt to quote unquote be good to them or be nice to them. And that's actually like where the evil comes from.
So again, I love to do this in class where I will take a position just to get some conversation, but I will now defend the leader.
Okay.
This can't be a secret facility of sympathetic doctors who are revolutionaries who oppose the state. This is a government facility.
Right.
Where the government is spending, as you say, as the doctor says, an inordinate amount of money to rescue these poor people, to make them better. In our society, we praise these people. You know, they're doctors who volunteer and they go to developing countries and they do. I actually saw a profile on television of a plastic surgeon from like Beverly Hills or something, but right. 6 weeks a year or 5 weeks, whatever, he volunteers and goes to rural areas in developing countries and does plastic surgery on kids who would have no access to right. $200,000 elective surgery.
Kids with like a hair lip and stuff.
And
like
he's praised, right?
Right,
what a great doctor that he's giving his time and his talent to help this poor kid who was born with a cleft palate or with an eye that, you know, whatever it is. He's a hero in our society. But you, Park, are saying that he's a villain in that society? I don't know whether I approve of your ethics here, young man.
No, I mean, okay, well, if I could offer a counter argument.
I'm sorry, class is over. We'll continue.
No. That's always how it happens. I mean, it's kind of reminiscent of gay conversion therapy, right? We're going to fix you, right? And it's like, those people, you know, whatever you think of that, those people probably do think they're doing good. They probably do think they're helping those people. But at the same time, it's essentially a form of torture. And what they're doing to this woman, I want to say real quick. So I have notes, and one of my first notes I have is the bandages. A lot of people who have not seen this episode in a while or haven't seen it ever may not understand this. The bandages serve no medical purpose. She has had them on her face forever to cover her face because she's ugly and ew, I don't want to look at her. That's why she has the bandages on, which I think is fascinating. They've been giving her injections. She can't have a surgery because reasons. They just make up nonsense reasons why they can't.
Okay, so explain that to me, because I think 10-year-old me and more recently me didn't understand that part. She had she gone through 11 surgeries?
No,
like they actually cut her, or they tried. No. And they couldn't because of some like drug reason.
So the doctor says that they can't do plastic surgery because her bone structure and her skin type, all these things that don't make sense. But he says they're all wrong, so they can't do plastic surgery. It's clearly just an excuse for the writer, for Rod Serling, because he doesn't want her to have an out to just get surgery. Yeah. But what's happened is, she's been through 11.
If that's what she looked like after 11 surgeries, you're going like, what did she look like before the 11 surgeries?
That's the thing, is she should look messed up because she's been injected, presumably been injected.
There's no blood on the bandages. You pointed out that
right.
They're just a curtain.
Yeah.
They're just a curtain.
There's no medical purpose to them at all. It's just, they might as well put a bag on her head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's, you know, that is really clever. Yeah, I mean, we that from my generation was a joke. Like, you know, ugly people, you'd put a bag on. You know.
Right. No, thank you. That's what I think. It's like they just might as well put a bag on it because it doesn't make it. They're just like, don't look over there. Just don't look at me. You know, it's like, but she's been through 11 of these processes, and if they're all like this one, she's getting injected with stuff, and I don't know what this stuff is, but it's got to be like something like horrible, right? If it's supposed to change your face, she's probably going to get like cancer later on. Like, this is just assuming realistic stuff. In the logic of the episode, nothing happened for whatever reason. When they shot her up with the stuff, nothing happened. And this is the 11th one. And after the 11th one, they're not allowed to keep doing it because it's a waste of resources. Again, the whole thing is a waste of resources, but whatever. After the 11th one, you get sent to the, like I said, basically a ghetto. But at the end of the episode, again, jumping forward, it's presented as a fairly positive thing because
also known as Vail, Colorado. Yes, but go ahead.
Yeah, also as Vail, Colorado. It's a fairly positive thing because at least you're escaping this society where you have to be judged by this standard.
Now, so let me ask you a question then. These people, at least from what we're told and what we infer, are not going to go to some camp with barbed wire and dogs and starvation. They're going to go to like a village on a river where only people like this live, and they'll live fulfilling lives there. But standards of beauty, whether, and we're going to talk about this, about, again, there is research that you can read papers that say that like people have certain standards of pulchritude, of beauty, that are bio-universals, that aren't cultural. Other people will argue, no, they're all cultural. So, for example, the universals will say symmetry.
That's what I've always noticed. Yeah.
Yeah. We are programmed because we assume that symmetry equals health to look at people who are completely symmetrical and say that that is more attractive than people who are asymmetrical. So just using that. But here's my question. Donna Douglas and Handsome Guy think each other are horribly ugly.
Yeah.
They're not rebels. They're not like people from another planet. They grew up in that society.
Yes.
Can they be happy living in a mutant colony?
No.
Where in their heart of hearts, even though they know everybody else is a mutant, that they actually think, or do they deprogram themselves when they get there?
In the logic of the Twilight Zone, they can be happy. In the real world, no, I don't think. I think in the real world, most of them wouldn't be. Now, people are going to argue against this. They're going to say, well, people deprogram all the time. I don't believe in beauty standards, blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, what you're pointing out is that the episode is basically stating that in this world, beauty is completely socially conditioned. There's no biological substrates upon which beauty standards are built. They're simply just beauty standards that society tells you, therefore everyone else tells you this, therefore it's a thing. And the thing is, we know that there are things like that in society, but I would agree with you that the main ones, and I'm not a professor and I can't like prove this, but the main ones seem to be backed up by biological understanding. It's like, again, I'm not trying to like, I don't know anything about this. I can't prove it, but one might imagine that the male interest in breasts might have something to do with the fact that a baby needs breast milk, maybe. And then that's crazy. But stuff like that has always just been a general assumption on my part. In this world, though, I don't think that's the case, unless the only standard is like, no, I don't think it makes sense. And I think that if it were real, when they go to this ghetto, there's probably a lot of pornography that predicts like the fish pig people, like in the ghetto. You know what I mean? Like there's pinup.
Wow, you are really describing a screwed up sequel episode where they're there. There's, oh my gosh, I don't want to
think about it either.
You've ruined my childhood. I'm going to be leaving now.
That'll be the title of the video. I ruined David D. Perlmutter's childhood.
These are interesting extrapolations, because if we've made these possibilities. This is either a future society.
Right.
Now, of course, it's got to be a future society where they've eliminated all memory of the past. It can't be like 10 years from now.
I think there's still
nobody knows that this is what humans used to look like. I think there
is still lingering memory of the past, even in the episode.
So the speech of the leader was like, don't think about the past, right?
Yeah. So there's stuff that they cut out of the episode that is in the teleplay. But
go ahead.
Well, so these were parts of the leader's speech, which it was longer, and these were things that were cut out. And I think these are included in the 2003 remake of the episode that they did for the 2003 show, or 2002 show, but I'm not sure. You recall, of course, that directionless, unproductive, over-sentimentalized, era of man's history when it was assumed that dissent was some kind of natural, healthy adjunct to society. We also recall that during this period of time, there was a strange, over sentimentalized concept that it mattered not that people were different. And this is why I disagree just that Serling intended it to be like a egalitarian type society, is because he says that ideas were at variance with one another, that a world could exist in some kind of crazy patchwork kind of makeup with foreign elements glued together in a crazy quilt. And he mentions, he mentions, here we go. When they said that all men are created equal is actually one of the lines. So
Okay,
I think,
if you don't mind, I'm going to interrupt you and ask you a question.
Go ahead.
Because and this is from what didn't appear, but
Yeah.
again, we're just extrapolating here. We're having a little fun. So it is quite possible that this is only part of the surface of the planet, and that two countries over, they are horse rat people who all look alike.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's possible. She says actually at one point, Janet, the main character, actually kind of speaks for the audience, and she says, "What is this state? Who are you people?" And it is kind of like they never have a name for it. They never specify. And so, there's no telling. It could be just one small part of the planet. I agree with you. There's no clues to that at all, though. It might be suggested that the fact that the leader is so into conformity, that might suggest that there are other nations, and that that might be part of what is, in his head, like causing problems or whatever. I don't know, but I agree that there's no way to tell. So I won't make a guess whether it's just a country or whether it's the whole planet, because they don't. I will say that if they could, they would be the whole planet, right? We know that.
Conformity gives comfort.
Right.
Right? Conformity, there's a reason why most people aren't brave rebels.
Right.
Right? I mean, or nowadays, they'll post an angry comment on Reddit and I'm a rebel.
There's a reason that most people put their money into the S&P, whatever the fuck, I forget what it's called, but they put it into the stuff that's it'll be a 2% general growth. They don't take risks with their investments because that would be stupid. Even if you make money from it, you look stupid to these people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, most human beings want to fit in. Now, it might be they fit in with their peer group. It may be that they fit in with some idealized group or something, but we are not rebels at heart.
Right.
The number of actual rebels is pretty low in any group.
Right.
So uniformity and conformity are popular.
It's
That's
part
why
of the
people
human condition.
have been successful with them. And we join groups to be uniform and conform, right?
Right.
As I mentioned, one of the books I wrote was The History of the Visualization of Warfare. And I think the archaeology and the anthropology has gone back, and thank you, back and forth on this. But we find evidence of organized violence extremely early in human history.
Right.
There's a good example of this. You remember a couple of years ago, and now in several museums are built for this, they found Otzi, this 5,000-year-old corpse in the Italian, Austrian, Tyrolean Alps there, right?
Right.
And massive amount of scientific papers have been done, because this is like an actual body, a CSI body from the Neolithic, right?
Right.
And if you read about what we know about him now, and I guess, he was unusual in that we have this one corpse preserved, so we don't have n equals 1. We don't have a lot of things, but I was just rereading it the other day that he'd suffered a bunch of injuries during his life. There were obviously man-made injuries. He'd been hit with 2 arrows, one that shattered his shoulder blade, but then he had the blood of 3 other people on him. and like knife wounds of him stabbing. I'm not getting it all right, but
No,
like,
that's fine. I get what you mean, though.
wow, the last couple of days of this guy's life, and there's an actual very good movie, Austrian movie, Otzi, a fictionalized movie about his last days.
Oh, that's so
But
cool.
like, um, society, extreme violence has been the norm in human society.
Right.
And it's only really relatively recently that we think it's normal not to have a violent society.
Right.
Like, we
Exactly.
think it's strange news. Most cities, even in New York, a murder will make the news, right?
Right. Right.
Or Baltimore or Los Angeles or something like that. But that's a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
Ultra
Yeah.
violence, and there've been theories that like we've had bottlenecks in the human gene pool where huge numbers of males died.
Right.
One of the sites, archaeological sites that I talked about is Crow Creek. Oh, I'm doing this from 20-year-old memory, so I apologize
That's
everybody
okay.
for getting this wrong. But like Crow Creek, South Dakota, we'll look it up. There was a massive kill site there
Ooh.
where hundreds of people in a village were killed, and the fewest number of corpses are young women. So we can
Oh,
extrapolate that the neighbors came in, massacred the village, and took off the young
took the
women. Well,
women.
that's
Yeah.
a story as old as time,
Right.
right?
Right.
So going back to defending the leader here, one of the arguments for conformity is that look at our bloody history where we've killed each other over differences: religion, ethnicity, nationality. Just go down the long list of why people killed their neighbor,
Right.
right? Sometimes resources, a lot of times food, place, when I want brides or whatever. But if an idealistic society would say, let's eliminate all those differences, and that was a socialist dream.
Right.
But the Nazis also claimed that they were, eliminating differences, but between different people, because they were saying there shouldn't be any difference between somebody from Prussia and somebody from Munich.
Right.
We're all the same. We're all one people,
Right.
right? So I think, in conclusion, this is a great episode. It makes you think.
Yes.
It has multiple layers and nuances, and you can have your fan theory that's just as right as somebody else's fan theory.
Exactly.
It's what makes good content to talk about. And
Absolutely.
it's what Hollywood should be making more of, where things aren't simple and clean and there's only one interpretation and we can just check boxes and not be entertained. Culture is a matrix and a mosaic of all of these interrelationships. And great
Right.
artists, and Rod Serling was a great artist, was aware of many other worlds of content, literature, other films, other television shows,
Right.
stories in society, folk tales. And he spoke to us from within a world. He was original, but he also knew that he had a place in the history of storytelling. And that's why we appreciate him. And we can spend almost an hour and a half now
Right.
talking about this 22-minute episode.
Right. Well, if people like this, I would love to talk with you again about something. Honestly, talk to you about anything, maybe Star Trek. You're a really interesting guy, and this was really fun just talking to you, even if we didn't
Thank
record
you.
it.
Yeah, I'm a big fan, and I hope people get a chance to comment and like and subscribe. Right? That's what you got to
Thank
do.
you.
Right?
I don't really say that much, which I guess I should, but thank you. You did it for me. So you have a great one, and everybody have a great one, and thank you for watching.